Pithivier, it's a famous French pastry. Essentially, it's 2 pieces of puff pastry, and in the centre, it usually has something sweet like an almond paste or some fruit. I'm going to show you my version using a savoury context, so a combination of cheese, ham, and lots of onions. Now, what I've done with my onions is cook them down. You want to cook them long and slow in a large pan, just like I've done. And I've also cooled them down. You need these to be cool because we're going to add them to some pastry. I've also used this pan, so the 28 centimetre pan and the 22 centimetre pan in this Ingenio set as templates to cut out the pastry. So we've got our puff pastry here. This has been traced out with the pan, so it's 22 centimetres. This is actually going to be the top. However, I've also used the 28 to cut out a larger circle. We want this to be larger because we want it to fill our pan completely. So go up all the sides to coat the entire pan. So we'll start with a little bit of butter, and I'll just use that to really coat the base of the pan. I love this set because it's super versatile. You can go from the hob to the oven. You can even use the pans as baking dishes, just like I'm doing. And because they're heavy, we're going to get a beautiful colour on the pastry, not only on the top, but also on the bottom. And when you're making this sort of classic French style pie, you want a good quality pan so the pastry cooks on the bottom. Nothing worse than soggy pastry. So once you've got a nice even amount of butter there, we're going to grab our 28 centimetre circle, and I just like to turn it over and pop that in and just press it in. It's always a good idea to do these ahead of time, pop them back in the fridge so they're slightly chilled. Because this is puff pastry, you don't want it to puff everywhere. So I like to grab a fork and we'll just pierce it everywhere, or studding is the terminology in the cooking world. Okay, let's start assembling this. Loads of French flavours here, starting with Dijon mustard. I'm just going to brush some of that Dijon mustard onto our pastry. Okay, along with some cheese. You can use any cheese you like, but keeping with our French theme, I'm going to use some Comté cheese. Very similar to a Gruyere cheese, so it's slightly nutty, but if you can't find it, you could use cheddar, a great substitute. So we'll grate that quite coarsely. We'll add some of that cheese now. A very small, thin layer of it. Next, our onions. Grab a spoon. Because these have cooled, we can use them. And we're just going to spread them out. So you want a few generous tablespoons in there. And I'm using onions because I love the sweetness of them, but there's no reason why you can't do this recipe with some capsicum, or leave this out completely and just do cheese and ham. Speaking of ham, some beautiful ham off the bone, and I'm going to use 2 to 3 layers. Roll it up because we want it to be shredded, and then finely slice it, kind of resembling the onions that we've added to it. Good, we'll sprinkle that over our onions. And finally, another generous amount of cheese. Okay, just push that down slightly, and a little sprinkle of nutmeg. Almost going to accentuate the nuttiness in that Comté cheese. Really happy with that. Now to our 22 centimetre circle. We'll place that on top. And we're just joining the pastry. And I like to have a little flour on standby just to place on my fingertips, just so it's not too sticky. And then we're just going to fold over the sides. So we're just sealing it just like you would do for a pie. Once I've finished with this, I'm just going to egg wash it, and I always like to place it in the fridge for at least 15 minutes, just so that egg yolk sets on the top. It's going to really make a difference to that gorgeous golden colour on top. After that, I'm just going to use a small knife just to decorate it slightly, and then it goes into the oven, 180 degrees. I'm going to cook that for at least 35 to 40 minutes, or until this pastry is golden brown. Okay, the Pithivier has come out of the oven. I've allowed it to cool completely. Detachable handle will take off, and the moment of truth, getting it out of the pan. But I'm very confident because it's non-stick, it's a good quality pan, that it'll come out. And I've got a plate ready to go. And I just like to turn it carefully over. Oh, look at that. Look at that crispy base. That's what we're after. Pop that onto a plate. Usually with a Pithivier, you'd freeform it, you'd place it onto a tray, a flat tray, and then pop it in the oven. But I think this is the way to go because you get the perfect shape of the pan. All right, I need to slice this. I want to show you inside all that cheesy onion goodness. So we'll cut that. And I'll just take a little wedge of that out. Ooh, look at that. See how succulent it looks? It's so moist because of those onions, and the cheese is melted into the onions along with the ham. Onto a plate. Absolutely delicious. I do also remember being in France, having this and just walking the streets of Paris. Ah, memories.